Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie and today we're going to be looking at the Earth Day inspired build your own bundle options from Olive Ave Polish. I'll have more details at the end of the video along with my bundle recommendations, but for now let's get into the swatches. The first shade we have is Bondi Blue, and this one is described as a teal linear holographic polish. So this one actually came out last summer, which might be a little surprising considering it's a little bit of a darker shade, but I think it works really nicely this time of year. So this one does have a bit of a jelly formula. As you can see, my nail line is showing up pretty strongly, though it's not super streaky or anything. And for me personally, I get this opaque in 2 coats. I really don't think you would need a third, especially if your nails are shorter. But yeah, generally, I really do love this color. This shade of teal is just so beautiful. It's very rich and deep, but the holographic effect is very subtle in Olive Ave polishes, so you can barely make it out. The next shade is Raindrop, and this is a dusty peacock blue cream studded with micro holographic glitters. So if you're familiar with me and my channel and my reviews of Olive Ave, you know how much I absolutely adore this one. It has such an amazing formula. Even though it is described as a cream, it's a little bit on the crully side. So here on the first coat, you can see there are some light spots, but it doesn't upset me too much with this shade because otherwise it would just kind of drown out those holographic glitters. So I don't mind the slightly crully formula. This one is always opaque for me in 2 coats. It has such a rich and creamy color to it, and I just love that hollow sparkle. The next shade we have is LA Looks, and this is described as a deep sky blue cream. So this is a new shade into the rotation of the Build Your Own bundle offers, and I am so excited about this one. This is another one that came out last summer, and it is an absolute must-have if you love sky blue shades. As you saw, this one was opaque for me in 1 coat, though you might need to if you do prefer thinner coats. Speaking of new shades, this next one is Rue, and this one is described as an Olympic blue cream. So this one also came out a couple summers ago, and this one is just jaw-droppingly gorgeous. It has such a bold color and a really rich and creamy formula. This was another one that I got opaque in 1 coat, although admittedly I tend to do thicker coats sometimes. But because this color is so deep, if you have shorter nails, I really think you most likely can get away with 1 coat. Absolutely beautiful, definitely worth picking up. The next shade we have is Ironic, which is described as a medium muted turquoise green cream. So this one also came out in the same collection as Bondi Blue, and I definitely really love this one. It was one of my favorites, but I was partial to the pinks in that collection. But this one had a really lovely formula. As you can see, it is a little bit, maybe not streaky, but see-through in some spots on the first coat, so it's slightly on that crully side, but like usual with Olive Ave creams, this was opaque for me in 2 coats, so you definitely don't need to worry about that. And I think the color is just so beautiful. I know it looks pretty bright, but I feel like there is that touch of mutedness to the shade, so it's not super in your face. Next up we have Palm Trees, which is a bold jade green cream with a juicy finish. And no, your eyes do not deceive you. This bottle and brush are a part of Olive Ave's older packaging, so don't mind that. But yeah, this shade was actually a part of Walker's very first summer collection, the summer reading collection, and that one was just one of my favorites. But this shade is absolutely beautiful. I might have struggled a little bit with the application using the skinny brush. I'm sure if you bought this now with the current packaging that includes the wider paddle brush, it wouldn't be as finicky, and you most likely will get it opaque in 2 coats. And I do want to mention that I think my bottle is just a little bit unmixed. I admittedly haven't used it in a while, but it's not uneven in its formula. I think it really is just the pigmentation that I didn't mix up really well, but still a beautiful bright shade. So of course I had to show Ironic next to palm trees, which is also funny to see the old and new packaging. But here the colors hopefully might look different, but on the nail you can definitely tell them apart, where palm trees is much brighter and kind of that juicy green, and Ironic is just more of a muted shade. Now we're getting into the deeper shades, and we're starting with Emerald, which is a mossy green linear holographic. So this is definitely one of those ugly pretty colors, at least in my opinion. I'm just not really the biggest fan of them, but color aside, the formula is very similar to Bondi Blue, where it was a little bit on that crelly, maybe even jelly side because of how translucent it is in some spots, but it was perfectly opaque in 2 coats for me. Obviously, this is also a deeper color, so you really wouldn't need more than 2 coats, I think, even if your nails were longer than mine. But yeah, overall, definitely a unique shade, not something I would gravitate towards this time of year, but it does give that swampy chic look. And we have another kind of swampy green. This one is Olive, which is obviously a rich olive green cream. So again, this might not be one that I would normally gravitate to this time of year, especially as a full manicure, but I think the shade can work really well for nail art. And color aside, the formula on this one was such a dream. It was very creamy, but again, I will just say as a disclaimer, I can be a little heavy-handed. So even though this was opaque for me in 1 coat, and you probably can get it opaque in 1 coat with short nails, you might need a second one. Next up we have Volcanic, and this is a deep walnut brown cream. So this one came out a couple of months ago in the winter as a part of the Rock Solid collection, which is basically the neutrals line for Olive Ave. And I don't think I was really in the mood for it during that time. I was really into, you know, the holiday winter kind of shades. But honestly, putting this on again, I was like, oh my gosh, it is just so beautiful and so luxe. It just has another super creamy formula, which might be surprising that I'm doing a second coat because this is definitely another very dark shade that I think generally could also be a 1-coater, but I just happened to do a slightly thinner coat on the first one, so I needed 2 here. But either way, it is just such a dream. Next up, we have another brown. This one is Sequoia, and it's described as a warm brown base with densely packed micro holographic glitters. So this one I think is pretty similar to Bondi Blue and Emerald, but I found this one to be a lot more opaque and less of that jelly, almost crelly type of finish. So this one was opaque for me in 1 coat. I know it's kind of crazy. Again, maybe it could be because it's a darker shade, but it was just so beautiful. Next up, we have Limestone, which is described as a mid-toned khaki cream. And if you've seen some of these build your own bundle videos, you know that this is another kind of repeat shade. And you know my opinions on it, which generally aren't super positive. I mean, the things that work well in this polish's favor is the absolutely creamy opaque formula. I wouldn't really say it's a 1-coater because it is a little bit of a lighter shade, but it has really great coverage on the first coat, and it'll for sure be opaque in just 2. But it's really the color that isn't my cup of tea. I think it just doesn't really suit my skin tone that well, but I think this could work really nicely in nail art, especially with how pigmented it is. And last but certainly not least, we have Cloudy, which is described as the lightest sky blue cream, so light that it verges on white, which it definitely does look pretty white when it's just kind of swatched on its own, especially on the first coat here. But I am still such a huge fan of this one. It came out in last year's spring collection, which was just one of my favorites from Olive Ave. and it has really great coverage on the first coat. Not super even or totally opaque, but for such a light shade, it really does have a beautiful formula, and it's generally very opaque for me in just 2 coats. So I definitely really like this one. I think you can see a little hint of blue, but I'll link the video where I compared this to a few white leaning olive Ave shades. So that wraps up my swatches for April's Build Your Own Bundle offer. I definitely can't wait to hear what you all think about this month's offer, because I feel like the lineup is definitely very dark and moody. I mean, obviously we love the Earth Day inspiration behind it, so it definitely makes sense that way. But honestly, some of the darker colors also give me really cozy rainy day vibes. So I actually ended up liking that, and that's what inspired this cozy, low-key casual look today with the messy hair, the glasses, and my boyfriend's sweater. But I really like these, and I'm really curious to know which ones you're going to be interested in, if any. Just as a reminder, the Build Your Own Bundle offer is available from the first Sunday of the month through the third Sunday, and there's no code needed. You can just go onto the website and it'll be automatically applied. It's a buy more, save more kind of deal, where once you buy 4 or 5 of the polishes, there will be 15% automatically taken off your order, or if you get 6 or more of the polishes, then you'll get 20% off. As far as my recommendations go, I think I would go with these 4. I would start with Cloudy, and then LA Looks, Palm Trees, and Bondi Blue, because I think they're just so bright and fun. But obviously Bondi Blue, which is also what I'm wearing on my nails, is a really nice touch of a darker, sparkly shade that's, I think, really fitting for a cozy rainy day. If I were to add in a 5th polish, I would add in Rue, which is the darker blue. I think it's such a stunning color that would really work well in the summertime. And I'm really concentrating here. The 6th polish that I would add in to get the 20% off would be Ironic, which I know these two are maybe a little too similar to these ones. They're just like slightly darker, but those are just the ones that I would pick because they're just the brighter, more colorful kind of shades, and the rest of them are a little too dark and earthy for me. I also did leave Raindrop back there, but that's because I'm assuming you've already listened to my recommendation before of picking it up, because it is just so beautiful, one of my favorites. So assuming you already have that in your collection, that's why it's back there. But if not, then I would just swap whatever one of these with Raindrop, because of course I have to include Raindrop. But yeah, these would be my picks for this month, which I know a little repetitive, but I think if anything, they make like the perfect kind of gradient, so that would be really cute. But yeah, definitely let me know what you think again of my picks for this month, if you would agree with me, or if you would throw in one of the darker shades into your bundle. Leave me any and all thoughts that you have down below so we can chat about it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.